I think that's the guy from the Army was talking about.
Pretty building. Is that the one in Otis Drive? Yeah. I walk by there every day. I go into high school. I guess that's it. Yeah.
We'll give a few minutes for people to gather. It's not quite 6:30 yet.
Microphone's on. Okay, good. Oh, it's Any people on there?
I can't count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I don't know if it's yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. I'm going to bring up the presentation here. Good evening. Welcome to our town hall meeting for the Underground Utility District number 38 project. I'm Gary Spinnick. I'm the project manager for Alameda Municipal Power for the Underground Utility District 38 project. We are recording this meeting and we will make it available on AMP's webpage. You should be seeing the slideshow right now. And if you're not seeing the slideshows, somebody can put that in the chat and I'll change it. Okay. Tonight's meeting is intended to provide you with information on the construction phase of the UUD38 project. I have about a 15-minute presentation, after which I will attempt to answer your questions. First, I'll give you a short background of undergrounding in Alameda. I'll give you an overview of the undergrounding process, tell you where we are in that process, and let you know what you can expect during construction. If you just, I ask that other AMP personnel watching in, if they can admit people that come into the lobby late. Okay. Please submit your questions in the chat. You can enter them anytime during the presentation, and I'll try to answer them at the end. If I am not able to give you to answer your question, I'll post a response in AMP's webpage. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Teams, here's how you submit a question. Where number 1 is pointing, you click on the conversation icon. Number 2, you type in your question at that spot, and then you hit the send icon, number 3. Alameda's undergrounding program began in 1984 as an effort to beautify the city. The undergrounding program is accomplished by designating underground utility districts, or UUDs, through a city ordinance. The ordinance requires that all overhead utility facilities within the district must be converted to underground. The program is funded through a 2% component of AMP's electric revenue paid into an underground utility district fund. The City Council approved the Otis Broadway Underground Utility District, UUD number 38, in February of 2019. The district runs along Otis Drive from High Street to Broadway and along Broadway from La Jolla to Encinal Avenue. It is about 1.2 miles long and impacts 205 parcels. Alameda Municipal Power is the lead agency for the city's undergrounding program. The joint trench participants include AMP, AT&T, Comcast, and the city. The project will be completed in multiple stages. The first stage is construction of the underground substructure, which includes installation of the main trench, conduit, service laterals, and service boxes. All services will be restored and a new or converted streetlights will be installed. In stage 2, after the substructure is complete, each utility will install their necessary cable and equipment and energize the system. In stage 3, an electrician contracted by AMP will convert the service connection on the electrical panel from being fed from overhead to underground. The final stage, which removes the overhead wires and poles, occurs after all services have been cut over to the new underground system. The construction contract was awarded to Smith Dennison Construction Company on December 12, 2023. Smith Dennison will install all the underground substructure, including the joint trench, service laterals, streetlights, and surface restoration. The other project stages will be done after the construction is complete. This includes installation of wires, cables, and other equipment, the panel conversions, cutover of customer services, and removal of overhead facilities and poles. The main trench will be in the sidewalk. Restoration includes new sidewalks and curb ramps. Service laterals will connect the main trench to the service point on the house. The service lateral involves trenching from the back of the sidewalk to the residence to install 3 conduits for electricity, cable, and phone service. The lateral typically follows the shortest path to the existing electric meter on the house, trying to avoid driveways, trees, and other structures. AMP's contractor will restore the surface as close as possible to the existing conditions. Property owners must grant permission for this work to be done on their property. The permission will be granted via a permit to enter document the AMP has sent to all property owners for their approval. The service lateral and electrical panel conversion work will be done at no cost to the property owner, except in the rare case that the length of the lateral exceeds 100 feet. Property owners may elect to provide their own trench and substructure, but reimbursement will not exceed the rate charged by AMP's contractor. The permit to enter is only required to be returned by property owners. Renters and tenants do not need to return this form. The form can be filled out and mailed to AMP, or you can scan and email it to me at the email address on the form. A fillable PDF is also available on AMP's webpage. If you wish to upgrade or relocate your meter panel in conjunction with the undergrounding work, check the box on the permit to enter form or notify me of your interest. Meter panel upgrades and relocations will be at the property owner's expense. City trees will be protected during construction. Contractor will take precautions when working near street trees, and the contractor is required to hire and retain a certified arborist during trenching operations. Your service will be converted from being fed from overhead to underground. There are multiple methods that can be used for converting your service, and it will depend on your specific arrangement on which method is used. The electric meter panel conversion will happen after the completion of the joint trench by an electrician contracted by AMP. The cost of this conversion will be covered by AMP. During construction, residents can expect work to proceed one section at a time. Trenching activity in front of a particular residence should only last a few days. You will likely experience sidewalk closures, driveway closures, which the contractor will coordinate with the property owner. Street parking may not be available in construction zones, possible lane restrictions, and a scheduled brief outage during service conversions. Residents will be notified via door hanger before work is done on their property. Project updates and schedules will be posted on AMP's webpage and emailed to those who opt into the project mailing list. To sign up for the mailing list, go to the website listed on the slide, or you can use the QR code. The schedule is very tentative. More detailed schedules will be provided when available. Once construction is started, we estimate that it will take 10 to 12 months to install the underground substructure. After the construction is complete, each utility can begin to pull their cable and install equipment. Service cutovers will likely occur in 2025 or 2026, with the poles being removed in 2025 or 2026. The planned starting point is Court Street, Waterton Street, and Mound Street. From there, work is planned to move from Otis and Bayview and work west towards Broadway. A detailed schedule will be shared when available. So the next steps are that prior to any work on private property, AMPS will obtain the permit to enter from the property owner for service lateral work and the service conversions. When available, we will share construction schedules on AMP webpage into the email group, and construction will start. At this time, I'll see if I can answer any questions. You can always submit questions or feedback via email by sending it to undergroundamp@alamedamp.com email address, and we will also post updates on AMP's webpage. And I assumed everything stopped sharing. So let me go to the chat and look at if there are any questions. And let's see. So how far in advance will notices be given to that work at residents? I believe the contract says at least 9 days. And has this been completed in other areas? The last time we completed an undergrounding project was about 12 years ago. So this is a slightly different program, but half of Alameda is already underground. And I will also, if you, and I see somebody's raised their hand, allow you to unmute your selves and you can ask a question. Let me work down the list. We live on Washington Way, which is a long cul-de-sac. Is the lateral from the center of Washington Way or from Broadway? The lateral is going to be, so when you're trying to figure out how long your lateral is, it's typically measured from the back of the sidewalk. Should we have received?
That's what I thought.
Okay. And should we have received the permit paperwork? I mailed everything out maybe a week ago, a week and a half ago. So if you haven't gotten it, let me know. And I see Fred shaking his head that he didn't get it. So I'll make a note and I'll send you the letter. Okay.
This is Leonard. Going back to the question of Washington Way, it's the one where it's perpendicular to Broadway.
Correct.
I can't remember the design. Is that, will there be the lateral boxes will be in Washington Way? Is that the idea? I can't remember.
Yeah. I think we have to run down. We have to run down the street and then lateral off of those.
Yeah, because it looks like there's a distribution pole in the middle of Washington Way. So
Okay.
The sidewalks are very narrow.
Okay.
that was Leonard. Do you know Leonard?
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. How much to upgrade or relocate electrical box? I can't give you a quote on that yet. If you want to upgrade your electrical panel, you let me know. And then when we have a contract electrician, we will work with you and get the electrician to give you a quote for the work. I'm hoping that it will be cheaper since he's already on site, doing work for us. At that point, you can decide to accept the quote or not. And as I said, that work doesn't happen until towards the end of the project. So it's going to be at least 12 months before
Right. So
that'll happen.
Yeah, I think that's it.
no, like the.
Oh, how long will the trench be open?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are we currently muted or unmuted?
You're unmuted, but I heard how long will the trench be open?
Yeah.
Apologies.
The trenches they'll not be open or not uncovered, of course, at night. And then, like I said, it's going to proceed, section by section. So for a particular house or a location, it should only be a few days.
Okay. Fair enough. We have our current box is I'm pretty sure I have a pretty good idea of where the lateral should be, and then it's going to shoot straight from that. And I have a tree that if you shoot directly from lateral, you could potentially chop off all the roots. But if you shuffle 3 feet to the left, I don't think it'll damage the tree. Will we have any input on where this trench goes through?
You should have some input. I mean, they're going to try to go the shortest route, but they also, because they're responsible for restoring everything as much as possible, they're going to want to avoid any unnecessary restoration work.
Sure, but like according to your paperwork, if I read it correctly, if any vegetation was destroyed, you would not pay to restore it. Correct?
It says surface restoration as close as practical. I don't. I have to read specifically what's in the contract, and I can try to answer that more closely. But
I'm just I read that pretty carefully, and it did seem to say that that you would not pay for any damage to
Trees or vegetation.
trees or vegetation. So my question is very simple. If I could speak to your contractor and say, hey, if you just shuffle 3 feet to the right, I recognize that you would have to drill through more concrete and sidewalk than not. Whereas if you drive 3 feet to the right, it's easier for you, and you're going to go through just a bunch of dirt. So I understand it'd be easier for the county to go through the dirt versus the sidewalk. And because part of the contract states that you would not pay for damage or loss to vegetation. So I just want to make sure I have some sort of input on saying if you just, dog 3 feet to the left and have to go through a little bit of sidewalk, you would be willing to do that.
right, we will make sure that you can give input into the contractor. I'm not sure. I know who the contractor
in what
is.
format would I be? Okay, then in what format would I be able to do that?
So,
Gary, I can answer this question. Hi, my name is Leonard Montill. I work with Gary
Hey,
here.
Leonard. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. I'm the engineering manager. So on a project like this, there's always what we call field condition decisions, and so forth. So we design as best we can with job walking the location and area. But when it comes to construction, there's always things that we come up with that we didn't know that were there, during construction. So there is a possibility to provide input into the contractor for adjustments on the design to minimize for both parties, the resident's property, and also not to change too much to affect the design too much. So there is what do you call it?
Wiggle room.
A method for input from the residences, and then and we'll take that into advisement and talk with the contractor and the best how to approach and minimize the impact to the property, and also to not to minimize the impact of to design not to cause extra costs and so forth. So we will do the best we can to accommodate both the residents, but at the same time keep true to the design and our contractor to keep the costs as a minimum for the project. So that's the best estimate I can give right now.
Okay, no, I understand that, and that's a great answer. My follow-up question is, how do I communicate with the contractor my concerns?
Is it just in person?
Is it just in person? Is it just when they literally show up to my property, or do I have a place to do that via email or via contract, or like how do I get there?
Gary, if I could, I'll go ahead and apologize. I think for now it's using the email, the underground.
Okay,
what do you think,
I don't.
Gary?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you can use that. You can email me, and then also is that I don't have all the point of contacts for the our contractor yet. I'm not sure who is actually going to be performing that lateral work. We have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor in third week of March. So part of what I'm going to have by that meeting is the list of all their contacts. And that is one of the questions of, okay, so how do you want to get this resident input and who and where do we send it? But for now, I'm keeping a spreadsheet of people that are interested, and maybe hey, before they do this work, I want to make sure that I have a chance to give some input. But you can also send me the input too, and I'll provide that to the contractor. But we're gonna try to make sure that the information flows.
Okay, that's an interesting point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I did email the email address provided and the paperwork sent 2 different times with some basic questions, and I haven't received an answer. So that gives me a little bit of unease around receiving response around this.
Was the emails recent?
They were 2 weeks ago and then 2 days ago.
All right,
It was the
I'll have
same
to
email
check. I thought I
asking for a
answered
question.
everything.
Okay, well, I didn't receive a response, but I just wanted to be clear about that.
Is an arborist going to be?
Also, is an arborist going to be on site for
Private trees.
for
Private trees.
for private trees?
They're required for the city trees. So that's something I'll have to talk to the contractor about.
Okay, so private trees, not so much,
Unclear.
or unclear.
Right.
Okay, good to know.
Let's see. Also
Gary,
looking in the, go ahead.
Gary, let's go down the questions in the meeting chat, then we'll go with the raised hands.
Right.
Okay.
So the next question was, along with care of or for city trees. Okay, that's the same question. What consideration will be made for residential trees, large, very near existing house electrical boxes? I mean, it's a case by case basis. Obviously, the contractor is not going to want to, kill or weaken trees, but it's hard to give an answer without being there specifically to decide what can be done. I mean, ultimately, you need to have an underground connection to your panel, but there are different ways of accomplishing that. Next question was, will AMP put conduit seals around cables to prevent water in the conduits? The conduits will initially be capped and then connected, so they're not going to be open to the water, if that answers the question. Both sides of the streets have conduits in the sidewalk. Both sides of the streets will have conduits. One will have more than the other because on one side of the street, we'll just have to run the secondary wires to connect on the houses. The other side of the street will have primary and conduits for the main power. Similar issue to Danny, tree at location electrical boxes over 2.5 feet in diameter. Well, we'll have to make an on-site assessment of how that can be done. So the contract award was for I believe it's 9.5 million, and the UUD fund is I don't have that number in front. I didn't expect to answer it, but I believe it's about 20 million right now. But because we collect from annual revenues, the way this will work is that the fund will, it replenishes a little bit every year. And so when we're done with this undergrounding district, we'll move to the next one. All right, so let's see if Pipara, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking our call. So we are in the first construction zone. So let's say we are on Court Street, and if construction begins in March, let's say if it does, how long would it be before our section is completed, and then move on to the next one? Just to getting a ballpark idea, how long will it be unusable or ready to use?
Well, well, so when you ask that, are you asking how long you'll have construction and then surface restoration, or how long it'll take to, remove the poles and convert your power?
Yeah, just the complete thing. Would it be after the whole project is completed in 10 to 12 months?
Well,
Or
it'll probably be 2 to 3 years before everything is complete. So your part of the work, I mean, maybe you'll have,
Gary, you want to bring up the timeline again? Because it went too fast. That was the best thing to do.
yeah. Bear with me then.
And ask them, is the trench going to be open that whole time? Going to open and close the trench for 2 years. There you go. So,
Okay, I think, are you seeing the agenda now? Or I mean, the timeline?
Go ahead and maximize it. You got your put it in presentation mode. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so the construction starts in March, be 10 to 12 months before it finishes. At the end of that, all of the surfaces will be restored, all the sidewalks will be restored, your yards will be restored. Then what happens is each utility company comes in, they pull wires, they install equipment, and then when that's done, then they'll schedule your service cutover. And the service cutover is what I had explained with AMP will hire an electrician. The electrician will come to convert the your panel from being fed by wires that come from overhead to underground. And then when all the service cutovers for all the utilities are done, then the poles could come out. And also I put on there that it's not part of our project, but Caltrans is planning on repaving Route 61 in 2025.
I think we're asking a simpler question.
Okay.
If our house gets a trench that goes across our driveway and it's open, and it'll be open for, I think you said 8 or 9 days, during which time we park either on the street or somehow we get our car out of the garage, and then you cover that with something, I don't know what, but in the conduit, then you don't have to reopen that trench. The trench gets closed at some point. And the question would be, how long is that trench going to be open and non-functional? Each person's home. Because I don't know how you rewire, if you take wires and just push them down these conduits, and so you can rewire the house and the cable and everything once the conduit's in.
Right. So only the conduit gets installed during this first construction phases. And what the utilities will do is they'll start at one end of the trench and pull wires through that whole section. So the trench gets closed.
Actually, Gary, let me can I take this? I'll explain. So during the construction phase, the contractor is going to open up a trench and install all the conduits. And they're going to do it section by section. They're going to do it in a way to minimize the intrusiveness of the trench being open. Once let's say an example, they have a trench, say it's like 10 feet long, 3 feet deep. They put all the conduits in. Then the way I figured how this is going to happen, each of the inspectors from each of the utilities is going to inspect the installation of that conduit, and then they're going to backfill, restore that section. So basically you have empty conduits, empty boxes in the sidewalk as the sections go on. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong. That's how we envision Smith Dennison's going to do it, correct?
Yes.
And then and they're going to minimize their time as best they can in each section that they're going to be in. Open up a trench, put the conduits, put boxes, restore the sidewalk, and restore the trench as best they can to what it was before, until it goes throughout the whole UUD38 district. And what happens is you're going to have a lot of empty conduits, empty boxes along this route. Once that's all complete, each of the utilities will what we call pull wire through these conduits. There's going to be boxes on either end, which they can pull sections at a time. So there's a method in which they would, like, on one end of an empty box, they would pull the wire through the other end of the next empty box, and then they will, depending on how long the run is and depending the design requirements from the utility, they can splice wire it and take it on to the next section, and then so forth. So to answer the question of how long the trench is going to be open, Gary, what did we say, like a couple of days for each section? Is that the goal for each section of the trench?
Yeah, that's the expectation, and they won't. They're not gonna like dig your driveway without notifying you in advance, and then of course they will accommodate needs. They'll use plating to cover the trench when they need to. So it's not like you're gonna not be able to use your driveway for extended periods of time.
So I hope,
That's helpful. That's helpful.
Thank-
And
yeah.
one other question sort of related to that. Do you anticipate running into water because this is an island?
Yeah, and they know that. I mean, there's trenching going on in
they'll have
various places.
they'll be mitigating when they do hit I guess what you call it, water patches, or what's what I'm looking for here,
Right.
groundwater, so to speak. They should be able to mitigate that as part of their contract.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. I hope my description answered your question.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
Thank you very much.
And are there any other raised hands? I don't see any. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. When do we need to provide the permit to enter? I'd ask that people submit them as soon as possible. If you want to put a comment on those, you can do that when you send those in. But I want to at least get a response so that I know that I have, all the property owners have been notified and have that information. And of course, no work will be done on your property unless we get that permit to enter.
Gary, there's I think you saw that one question. There's another question afterwards. At cutover, will both copper, cable, and fiber be available for each house?
So I can't tell you what AT&T and Comcast are installing. So I don't know.
What we can do is we can take that question and forward it to our contacts at cable. I just want to clarify who Sylvia, who asked the question. When you mean both copper cable, are you talking cable like Comcast cable, or copper cable as in terms of electrical cable? I don't know if you want to put in the chat to clarify. Okay. Okay. So basically, the project is to allow the existing facilities that is overhead, which includes Comcast and Comcast cable, or excuse me, Comcast the company, and AT&T the company, whether they're going to transition to a fiber or maintain a coaxial cable. That will probably be best answered by the companies themselves. We don't know the answer to that. I do know that, for example, AT&T does have a fiber component. And I also know Comcast still has some coaxial. What we can do is, if you like, we can ask the question and what the intention of both companies attempt to put in. But I don't want to guess at what they're putting in. So
Right.
what we can do is we can take this question and pose it to our contacts over there and see what they intend to put in underground.
Right. And I think
If you-
the assumption is probably that the service you have now is what they're going to cut over.
yeah. Okay, and then yeah, it's for them. It's I don't know what actually I don't even know what their policy is for what they do for upgrades for endeavor like this. So we can ask, and then if we get an answer, we can share it back.
Okay.
I'm trying to look to also the if there's
Yeah,
other
that's what
questions we
I'm
miss.
reading questions. Oh, Kevin, did you want to unmute?
Yes. Hi. Where will the boxes be?
So I want to be, I think I talked to somebody else and stuff. So the boxes that we're talking about are the underground utility boxes. I think the person I was talking to earlier was thinking we were talking about the above ground equipment. But what we're discussing here are underground utility boxes. So the majority of them are all going to be located in the sidewalk.
And will they be underground or above ground?
So so they are underground. So if you look around, I mean, you have probably, you know, a couple utility boxes in front of your house already, probably for your sewer or whatever. So similar to that, and they're of differing sizes, but they're flush with the surface, and they'll be located in the sidewalk.
And
Uh,
it's just a follow up. Would they be where the telephone pole currently is?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Thank you.
if you give me a second, I can share Google Maps of examples of what these underground boxes are. I just gotta find a good one. They're pretty much all over all over the city. I just gotta find a good one to share here. I'm basically going down Clement Avenue looking for one right now. Uh, um, yeah, this is the best I can. No, that's not good. Let me see here. I'm trying to get a good one here. What to expect? That's why. It's not good. That's all rusted out. Because because previously before some utilities use like metal lids and they're all rusted now. So but I want to show like what what we're putting in now. It's like, oh, here we go. Okay, so if I share my screen here. So this is Clement Avenue. I don't know if anyone can see this, but here's an example of a brand new sidewalk. And then here's like an underground box similar to what we're talking about here. I don't know who this one is. This could be like AT&T or this could be us. I'm looking at Google Maps right now, so I'm wondering if everybody can see that. So is there an example? And here's another one right here too. There's another one right here. This is, I believe, a 24 by 30 box. If my gauge of scale here, and you can see like two boxes here. So you might see something like this. One could be for power amp, one could be for Comcast or AT&T and so forth. So the lid should be flush with the sidewalk and so forth. And they're roughly between 18, 24, 36 inches deep underneath the ground with conduits going in and out of it underground.
That's good news. I envisioned, one of these boxes that's 2 feet high. But let me just maybe one follow-up question. Earlier, I think Gary mentioned about the sidewalks being redone or something. Is this project going to entail removal of the sidewalks?
Yes, where the trench is. So if they're, like I said, the location of the trenches will be mostly in the sidewalk, which means under the sidewalk. So they will actually end up removing the entire sidewalk and then putting a new sidewalk in. It means new curbs, new gutters.
Sorry, I'm trying to unshare here.
Are there any other questions? You could just unmute yourself. You don't have to raise your hand if you have any questions. It seems like maybe we're getting towards the end.
Apologies. Hi. Danny Pando here. We touched on this previously, but I apologize if I missed the answer. If we had a slight tweak on where the lateral went in, who would we talk to about making that slight adjustment?
Send me the information now.
Via email?
You could send it to me email. If
So-
you receive the permit to enter form, my email address is actually on that form at the bottom. Just let me know that hey, you have certain desires for the lateral to avoid things, and you want to consult with the contractor before they do the work, and I'll make that note and work with the contractor to make that happen.
Okay, that sounds great. What is your email address, Gary?
It's Spenik, SPENIK at alamedamp.com.
I'm sorry, SPENIK at.
Correct. Alameda, M
Okay.
as in Mike, P as in Papa.com.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And Gary, there's more questions on the chat here. The next one is, will there be a provision for future wiring from other companies? I'm assuming the question is asking if there's going to be provisions for companies outside of Comcast, AT&T. There's also City Fiber, if I'm not mistaken. As of right now, no. And then
the next one is about the street lights.
Yep.
So the new street lights are to replace. So on Otis, we have street lights attached to utility poles. Since the utility poles are going out, we need to replace those street lights. We'll be using the standard city street lights, and they should be the same level of brightness. And probably be at very close to the same location that the current streetlights are. On Broadway, it's a little different because those are historic streetlights. And so instead of replacing those, they just get converted from being fed overhead to underground.
Is that also true of the cul-de-sac folks? I'm sorry, I happen to be one of the cul-de-sac people that has a big classic soaked wood pine things that also represent our electrical poles. So I assume we're going to strip down all the electrical stuff. Are we going to then replace those poles, or we're just going to rewire them to be fed from street?
So do you have a freestanding street light now?
We currently do have two freestanding streetlights, and that's where we're fed our electricity.
Right. So I mean, if they're not on a utility pole, then they should just get rewired from. Right now there's a wire that attaches to the top to provide power. So in the future, the power is going to come from underground.
Okay, understood. So
And what street are you on?
We're on Washington Way. It's a little cul-de-sac right off of Broadway.
Right.
I understand we're like a kind of a subtext to this whole situation. We're just trying to figure out. I'm like the kind of the elected spokesperson from the block to trying to figure out like how this is going to work for us.
I'll have to, because I thought your streetlight was mounted on a utility pole. Is it not?
No, it definitely is. We have
Okay.
two utility poles
So
that are mounted on a yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
what'll happen is that wood pole comes out, and then the new streetlight pole goes in. So the streetlight poles, obviously, you know, are it's similar to what you see in other places,
Uh-huh.
and you know, much smaller than a utility pole. And we'll have to look. I mean, if right now that light is in the middle of a tree, that's one of the things we'll have to figure out is, does it go back in the exact same place?
I understand. Okay. Our particular utility poles are not in the way of any kind of particular tree. I'm so so you're going to pull out the current utility pole and put in a new one.
It's not a utility pole, it's a streetlight pole.
Okay,
So
my bad. I'm sorry. I'm new at this. I apologize.
Yeah, it's going to be whatever the city will be standard streetlight pole for that particular area. I think they're going to best match, like, because I believe it's perpendicular to Broadway. So Gary, correct me if I'm wrong. It's going to be something either the same or similar to the
No, you're
design of
correct.
the on Broadway on Broadway. Whatever
Okay.
I think they're green if I'm not mistaken. Memory serves or something like that.
On our particular cul-de-sac, it's like a very classic oak soaked in pitch situation. So that will be removed, and you're going to put in like a very standard pole.
Street light.
That's what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Apologies. Again,
no worries.
I'm new at all this.
No worries.
I've been elected to be in charge of this dumb thing. So I'm sorry. I'm new at all this.
okay. So question about I think we already answered the similar height, location, degree of brightness for the streetlights. Yes. Sonic has fiber on the poles. So does that mean the provider would not be available for internet use? That's a business decision by Sonic. And they are not in the trench going in. So I'm not sure what their plans are. In other areas, I have seen the complaint against Sonic that they're providing service on the overhead poles, but in Berkeley, for example, when they went underground, Sonic said, "No, we're not doing that." But so that's going to be a Sonic business decision.
My light went out in my office.
All right.
I'm trying to see if there's anybody has raised hands, if they want to ask any more questions. I'm looking, viewing, make sure we didn't skip a question. Looks like I don't see anything else. Oh, there's one more person. Anne raised their hand. Go ahead, Anne, if you want to unmute yourself. And if you want to unmute, you can ask your question.
Typing.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
mistake. That's okay.
No worries. It's okay. So, all right. Gary, I don't see anything else. Raised hands or new questions. I think we got them all. So I'd like to add, if after tonight, on projects like this, sometimes a lot of people have questions afterwards after digests and sinks in. So go ahead and email Gary or even the what's the underground
Or the
Alameda
underground,
MP
right?
questions, and then we'll do our best to respond and provide answers to those questions and so forth. And then, like Gary said, he'll provide a schedule update as it becomes more clear with our contractor, so that way you're always informed on the up to date and on the schedule on the construction in that area and so forth. So I can't think of anything else to provide Gary. Looks like Fred, you have a question? You can unmute yourself, please. Thank you.
I just want to point out that when we first started establishing this district, Gary had dark hair.
It seems that long ago.
And anyway, I'd really like to thank both of you guys for shepherding this project through to this point, and we're looking forward to the construction.
All right, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you,
And
Fred.
Fred, I'm going to email you your letter. I'm not sure what happened. So.
Okay.
Hey, Gary, you look great with silver hair. So,
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for attending. And
Yep.
AMP's webpage, if you go to the page on undergrounding, I'm going to try to keep that up to date. And as I said, I will email those people on my email list anytime I get other updates. All right. Thank you.
Everybody. Thanks for
thank you,
joining
guys.
us here
Thank you. I
tonight.
really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Have a good night.